My name's Peter DeChant. I'm Global Technical Manager for Valent Biosciences Corporation Public Health. And I'm here with Steve Bradshaw, Florida Keys Mosquito Control, to talk about how they go about doing control of container mosquitoes with an aerial program. Well, Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit about your aerial program and what you do here?
Our aerial program, like most, has historically been for nuisance mosquitoes, salt marsh mosquitoes, larviciding and adulticiding. But with the advent of dengue fever several years ago, we found that we really weren't getting the results we wanted with our domestic programs, with our ground inspectors down there, and we needed something more. So working with you folks, we developed this aerial system for delivering the larvicide to treat the container breeding mosquitoes in urban areas. The airship we use is a Bell 206L, which is Long Ranger. We have 4 different ones. What we have is kind of a standard Isolair liquid system that people use for a lot of different applications. We've got the Micronair AU5000 spray heads on there. So what we do is we calibrate that so that it puts out a droplet of like 110, 12 micron BMD, and that we found gets down into those containers very well.
Okay, very good. And your swath width is?
200 feet.
200 feet.
We're covering 32 acres a minute. We're putting out half a gallon of mixed product per acre.
Okay, and that half a gallon of mixed product contains how much VectoBac WDG?
1/2 a pound of VectoBac WDG to 1/2 a pound to 1/2 a gallon of water goes per acre.
Okay.
So it's 1-to-1 mix, 1 gallon and 1 pound. That's worked out well for us. You know, we did several trials, and that mixture and that application rate seems to have been doing a really good job for us. We like to fly right after daylight in the morning when, you know, conditions are kind of stable and there's no heat rising from the ground because the product is very light. So we don't spray if it's over 12-mile-an-hour wind, 10 knots. We have a model that we've developed, and that model tells us where the droplets will go in each kind of wind, certain wind directions or speeds. Also, we fly pretty low. So we're doing this at 100-foot elevation, and that's not that far above, you know, if we're doing Old Town Key West, the trees and the houses. So once they get down out of that clear wind and down into there, then they can settle around and drop, you know, because there's not as much airflow down among the obstacles.
VectoBac WG is pretty easy to mix with water in small batches, and and it mixes up nicely and stays suspended. But when you go to this kind of operational scale where you're making really big batches and putting out 100-gallon loads into the helicopter really fast, tell me about the specialized equipment you've put together for this purpose.
Typically, we'll do 500 pounds, 500 gallons in a typical mission down in Key West. This is our mixed tank that we actually mix up the product in. We have our water tanks to carry the water to mix it in. Then it goes through here where the VectoBac goes into this hopper here, into this induction tank, which allows it to flow down. We open this valve, and as the water is coming through from the water holding tank into the mixed tank, they open this valve to allow the powder to flow down and mix into that, and it mixes up into that tank. When they get the proper amount of water in there, then we'll shut that off and just let it circulate back and forth through there, and shut this off too, of course, and until it's mixed properly.
And you can do it very rapidly in an operational setting.
Yes, I mean, and that's very important, because if you tried to just dump it all in, you would have a hard time getting it mixed up, and it would clump up on the bottom. So it's very important to get the right ratio of water to powder, and it'll mix, and then it mixes very nicely.
How many batches do you run in a morning?
Well, what we do, we run 100 gallons at a time in the aircraft. And so if you're only mixing 100 gallons, it doesn't take but a few minutes to get it done. And so rather than mixing all of it, like say totally we'll use about 500 gallons, instead of mixing it all at one time, they'll mix one load at a time, because they have enough time when the helicopter's gone out to do the other one. And that way, in case the weather changes, the wind gets up, we can't finish the spray, or we have an equipment failure on the aircraft, or something happens, we're not got a bunch mixed up that we can't use. So that way works out pretty good. They can mix the whole thing in probably 15 minutes or so. They can mix that batch and have it ready for when the helicopter comes back in.
Since you're treating over a pretty congested urban area in Key West, how's the public receive it?
Pretty well. In the beginning, we had a few complaints. We occasionally do, but mostly it's because what's the noise from the helicopter. When we first started out, as you know, we were trying to find out what our best parameters were. So in the beginning, we were using 100-foot wide lane separation or swath, and that kind of generated more of a noise problem with people early morning. And two, initially we experimented with different droplet sizes. And our first applications, we were using a little bit bigger droplet size, which made the product more noticeable on the ground.
Okay.
As it is now, it's not really noticeable to the people, on the ground because the droplets are so fine.
Great. And one final question, what's happened with the dengue situation since you started doing this?
We haven't had any dengue cases, for some time, and we want to keep it that way. We put a lot of effort on the ground and in the air, public relations and all of that, so we're really trying to keep that from happening again and keep something like Zika from coming in here and getting a foothold too.
Sure, and I guess that's important to emphasize that this is part of a fully integrated program for control. It's not the magic bullet, it's one part.
Yes, and we do, as you know, we do a lot of different things, and it takes doing all these things together, but fortunately, we have the resources to be able to do this because it has really, been a great aid in our program.